Hi, this is Rick Frederick, and uh, talking today about Dr. Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. The copy I have is a new paperback, and it's probably 400 pages long. Let me just look, about 400 or 500 pages long. It's excellent, and I'm reviewing it because of its subject matter, cognitive psychology, and how we think and make judgments, how we remember, what biases we face when we remember things, how we make decisions. Dr. Kahneman talks about two types of thinking, two modes of thinking that he refers to as System 1 and System 2. I'm not suggesting that he came up with those names, but these are the names that he gives to the two modes of thinking that he has studied throughout his career. There's no doubt that he thinks these are actual systems that we should pay attention to. We should pay attention to the rules by which they operate, because they are who we are. What we believe and what we think is based on these systems. System 1 operates automatically and quickly, a very rapid judgment-making, decision-making system. And I'm quoting extensively from Dr. Kahneman's book for this review, just to make sure that I say things correctly. The main function of System 1 is to have a model of your personal world so that you can rapidly recognize what is happening and have an effective immediate response. The problem, of course, is that there's all sorts of influences, biases, sorts of ways that we think about things, heuristics that are imperfect and lead System 1 to make mistakes. Optical illusions are a common example of trying to judge whether lines are similar or dissimilar in length. All sorts of influences within the picture might suggest that lines have different lengths. When we lay a ruler next to them, we see that they're actually the same length. We've all seen those sorts of optical illusions in which the elements of the picture are trying to trick, and what they're tricking is System 1. What we want to do is apply System 2 and say, look, maybe this isn't correct, my impression. And so we allocate attention and resources to solving problems and asking ourselves whether the things that we believe are true. It's hard to invoke System 2 over System 1. We have to recognize that there are two systems and recognize the biases and influences on System 1 so that we can say, hey, maybe I'm making a mistake here. System 2 is lazy and must be activated to ask ourselves whether our initial immediate beliefs are accurate. So is my initial impression of this individual fair? What are the aspects of this person's presentation that are influencing judgments about this person that might not be sustainable with more information? So this is what the book is about, and the book is written in a way it's actually quite enjoyable to investigate the sorts of problems that arise. And what I like most about the book is the very creative ways that cognitive psychologists have defined the problems and investigated them to generate data that say, yeah, look, this is what's happening. There is an idea in the book called "What You See Is All There Is." So it's a hard idea to gain and to apply, but a different way to say this is that System 1 is radically insensitive to both the quality and quantity of information that gives rise to the impressions and intuitions. So to be radically insensitive means that System 1 makes decisions based on certain information and doesn't go deeper. What you see is all there is. That's effective. That means that we can rapidly make decisions because the coherent story that we put together from the information that we have is usually close enough to support reasonable action. And we just need to be aware of the influences that bias our decision making and how to overcome it. So in other words, System 1 is very adaptive. System 1 works for us. System 1 works for us most of the time and keeps us out of trouble, but sometimes it puts us into trouble. And System 1 just responds to what there is. That's all there is. It doesn't go deeper. System 2 must be invoked to go deeper and to say, look, maybe there's something else going on here that I should think about. So part 2 of the book is about the heuristics of System 1, the ways that it makes decisions, the sort of algorithms, and then the biases that influence it. System 1 is this very nice concept. It's not prone to doubt. And just think about the people who do have anxiety and who are inconfident and doubt, and how ineffective they can be as individuals because their System 1 isn't operating with confidence. You want a system that works and works immediately, and you want to temper that system before you commit to something too costly to say, well, where's my impression taking me here? System 2 is capable of doubt. And so correcting your intuitive prediction is the task of System 2. But we have to understand the ways in which System 1 is influenced by heuristics and biases and how to undo them. Part 3 is about overconfidence and how that's a byproduct of System 1. So this is not a how-to book. It's not a way to apply scientific knowledge to keep your System 1 from making mistakes. But it is a way to show you that System 1 is imperfect and how. With that information, we should consider ways to challenge the automatic beliefs and values that we have. Part 4 is a more difficult part of the book, and this is really the part that Dr. Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for. And it's important to note Dr. Tversky, his colleague of many years, had passed away at the time that the award was given, and people who have died are not eligible for the Nobel Prize. But it's not his work alone. They work together, an amazingly productive team for many years. But it integrates the field of economics with psychology. And so you have an idea of econs in economics, which are consistent, logical, rational agents that always operate as they should, which Dr. Kahneman and Dr. Tversky introduce ways to think about choices in economic matters, which is abroad, not just money. What happens when actually these so-called consistent and logical rational agents are neither fully rational nor completely selfish? Okay, so the last part of the book is just some summary chapters, but it's thinking about two selves. And So the attentive system 1 is who we think we are. And system 2 is that part of us that, if we can get it past its laziness, can begin to question or doubt the values that we hold, the ideas that we have. System 2, if it's lazy and not motivated or not educated, will often endorse or rationalize feelings that were generated by System 1. For example, first impressions. Your first impressions of people are very powerful, but they're often deeply flawed. And it takes an active System 2 to say, look, what other information is there, and how should I consider that information in making a decision about this person? The way to block errors that originate in System 1 is simple. In principle, recognize the signs that you are in a cognitive minefield, slow down, and ask for System 2 reinforcement. Dr. Kahneman makes an effective argument that this really only works when we're looking at other people's lives, that we often just really fail to see this when it occurs for us. So comments, I think this is one of the finest books that you could hope to read. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'll probably read it again and probably read it more as a textbook and try to pull out more information when I read it. But it's just written in such an enjoyable, accessible style that I read through it probably too quickly. What I like about Dr. Kahneman's writing style is that he is highly motivated to produce understanding. And one of the things that he effectively does is at the end of each chapter, he gives some real-life examples, just a couple sentences, to show the principles that he's just discussed. This is not a self-help book, but it is a great way to gain insight about why you believe what you believe and whether you should believe it. This is some of the information in this book is what he won the Nobel Prize for. So it's probably not accessible to everyone. It certainly wasn't for me. I don't want to give that impression. There is a struggle, and I particularly struggled in part 4. Still enjoyable, but I'm sure that I missed much. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting about this book was that at the back it included 2 of Dr. Kahneman's and Tversky's papers on the subject matter. And if you want to challenge yourself, I suggest you sit down and read those papers. And you'll see that there's a completely different writing style. That is a scientific writing style. The book is more in the mode of science writing, which is meant to be accessible to a lay population. And I think that Dr. Kahneman succeeded enormously in doing this. Again, a thoroughly enjoyable book. Thank you.